this.
G'day everyone, welcome to another episode 7 of the Hidden City Roller Derby. I'm your host Simcof, and today I am joined by the Matamoto himself, Merlin. How's it going, mate?
Doing good. Got another mat to add to my collection.
What was the mat?
It's that Elemental Fury artwork.
Yeah.
Fucking nice.
Wonderful, lovely. And also joined by the Grinder.
Hey, how's it going?
Good, man.
Good.
Still grinding?
Still grinding. I had to grind through dinner. I'm not even done.
Well, at least you turned up to the podcast on time.
Do what I can.
Yeah. So a few of the regulars are still away, but the triumphant return of Toradori will be next week, and he has so much to say because a little bit has happened in the last few weeks. So today I think we'll cover some of the cool news that's been going on, which, there's been a little bit, something to do with new roles. That was pretty exciting, and some Gen Con and some bits and pieces. But maybe let's start off with, you've been playing any Level 5R lately, Merlin?
Yeah. I think the best thing, the most recent bestest thing that I went to was that dinner, the one at the Japanese restaurant. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, man. So what was the tournament actually called? Do we give it a name?
I don't think it had a name. It was like one of the Traveling Ronin. It was under the tournaments, and one of the stores like here had a kit that they couldn't really run with like a heap of people. They could only seat like 10 people at their event, so they run the event and give the store a bit of sponsorship and that's got a decent. And this restaurant, actually, I remember what it's called. It's like Ichi Izakaya or something. And they've got like this upstairs section where they actually host a board game night called Godzilla Gaming or something. Gamezilla, right? And you would go up there and you would pay $2 and you would use their board game library. So we approached the store and said, like, well, do you want to, could we run like our L5R event here and we'll get like 20 people along and they'd buy drinks and stuff? And they said yes.
Yeah, it was a great night. It was just sake, cards, beer, some other cards. It's only 3 rounds, unfortunately.
Yeah, it was like 3 rounds, right? And I got to buy the first round, so I only actually got to play 2 games. And you know what else? Those 2 games, I had to give away 2 of my Hatamoto pins. My
no.
Yeah, I know, right?
Easy come, easy go.
Yes, that's what they say.
I wonder
Just
if
restock
it was
at
a
Worlds,
ruse
mate.
to get you a bit liquored up so that you'd lose your Hatamoto pins.
Yeah, that's probably it. I was feeling very complacent after imbibing, lots of sake and beer.
Yeah, that was a really great night. Wayne, who organises a lot of our bigger tournaments, helped run the thing, but I think, Merlin, you booked it and helped organise it a bit too, didn't you?
No, not really.
Not
Pretty
really.
much all Wayne.
Just
Yeah.
Wayne.
Like all I did was talk to like the store owner that one time, and then Wayne pretty much just took over the rest.
Yeah, he does that. He's good at that. Yeah, that was a well-run tournament. I mean, interesting comment about the 3 rounds. So scheduled as 4, and the reason it only went for 3 was actually nothing to do with the tournament organisation. Tournament organisation was fine. It's great. It's actually to do with the weird tiebreaker rules, right? So we had a few games where it was like, the immovable object, versus the unstoppable force. We had Soul Beyond Reproach and all that sort of like crazy crane re-honoring tech versus, the old bid 1 defensive dishonor. And those games just go on and on and on. So one of the rounds went for like 20-25 minutes over, because we're just waiting for this mod loss to happen. It's terrible.
Yeah, pretty crazy.
Yeah. So I think there's still some improvement to be done in those rules. But apart from that, it was a fantastic tournament. And what about you, NZ? It sounds like you haven't had that much time to play L5R, but have you tried out the new crab guys?
No, I've mostly just been playing Dragon. They just seem busted. But I mean, I'm playing my usual NZ decks. So, it's like Dragon Dishonor, and I'm trying all the kind of new things. Consumed by 5 Fires Dragon, and, jank, mostly.
Now, do you believe in the power of Dragon Dishonor? Is it a legit deck that you would take to a tournament? Or is it still in the sort of like jokey, jank, shits and giggles phase?
I think it's getting closer to something I would take in an actual tournament. I think with Keeper of Void, I've got a build that I put together last night that splashes Crab for Watch Commander and Reprieve, and uses Charge as its restricted list, and then also as being in Becoming. So you've just got lots of ways to keep your Watch Commander dude upright. Yeah. And now that they've got Mitsu and everything, and like the Troll, you're just charging out top tier characters. Keeper Initiate fills a good extra monk slot, so you can reliably play Hurricane Punches and just draw for ace cards. Like, it's just a deck full of quality stuff that has a way to pressure a second win condition. And I don't know, I've been playing Phoenix like that a lot lately, and I just feel like, Watch Commanders and anything that can ready units quickly is just strong. So that's kind of my interim until I figure out the new meta, attack people and, force them to just lose on it and play awkward situations.
The whole comment you made there about readying people being a strong effect, I think that there's been a lot of general angst on the Facebookatorium and the Discordatorium about Hawk Tattoo. Like, all L5R players putting their arms up saying, my god, it's the end of the Voltron meta. This card's, you can't interact with it. It's stupid. It doesn't, it breaks the rules, blah, blah, blah. And, I think we saw at Gen Con, which we'll talk about in a second, that definitely there was at least 1 or 2 players that decided it was worth inclusion in their decks. I think, like, readying's really strong, right? Like, it's a good way of playing around it. Yeah.
Yeah, I think... No, go ahead, mate.
I was just saying, with like Magistrate Station and a few of these Shitomi encampment, a few of these other like provinces and heroic resolve attachments, there's a lot of other readying effects now, and I think that the reason why Hawk Tattoo can be so punishing, because it means your tooled up dude, your like Borderlands defender with a Watch Commander and a bunch of other bollocks on him, like, gets one conflict. But if you've got standing effects, you don't have to rely around hopefully drawing your favorable grounds. You can still have like a contingency plan.
Yeah. Well, if you think about it, if you think about the game, it's all about economy, right? Like, this is an economic kind of game. And it's like Charge. If you charge a guy in, instead of paying 5 fate or whatever he cost, you basically pay 1 fate for the guy who can participate in the conflict once. Well, if you buy the guy and then spend another fate to keep him straight, you've kind of paid 2 for the ability to use that guy again in a conflict, right? So in the first instance, you're getting 4 fate worth of value for the one that you paid, 5 fate worth of value for the one that you paid, and then in the second case, you're getting the same amount because you can use them again in a conflict. So the reason they're strong is because they're kind of like economy. Get 10 fate worth of value out of 2 fate.
So Hawk Tattoo, in essence, is one of the reasons why it's very strong, because it has a negative economic impact upon your opponent's board.
Yeah, exactly right. In fact, when you play it, it's the opposite, right? When you play it, they get pulled into a conflict, and potentially that value is taken off the board for them.
Yeah. So it's nasty.
Yeah, Hawk Tattoo, pretty special. Didn't they do like a thing on Facebook where they were trying to figure out how many top decks had Hawk Tattoos in them and stuff?
I think it was just most of them, right?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was most of them. But that's what they were saying on
it becoming
Jade Throne too.
Like, as important as court games? Like, is it a card that's going to be run that often?
It's tough, right? Because it's a splash card, right? It basically pigeonholes you into Dragon Splash. I've been playing around with some Crane Splash out of my Phoenix deck, which we'll talk about later. But you don't get Hawk Tattoo, and Hawk Tattoo is really good.
Yeah.
Okay. Don't know.
Yeah, I mean, Hawk Tattoo is currently meta defining, but at the same time, I'm going to go out on a limb, and I'm going to be crucified by probably every listener and say I don't think it's actually that bad. I mean, if you build your deck for it, and at Gen Con clearly people were just getting owned by Hawk Tattoo, but
Doesn't it
I'd like
depend
to
on?
see this amount of stand, the amount of get out of dodge type cards. Like, will Hawk Tattoo promote more movement? For example, will people pay more attention to movement related actions so that when their guy gets dragged in by the Hawk Tattoo that he didn't ask for, can he get back out? That kind of thing. Are there going to be ways of capitalizing on those movement? Are people going to actually start figuring out, okay, if a character that I have here gets dragged in, I've seen their let go or something like that. Do I have a way to play around the Hawk Tattoo, or am I just completely screwed? If you're completely screwed 9 out of 10 times, maybe you need to revise your deck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I found favorable ground was super important at that restaurant game for Hawk Tattoos and stuff. I played against a dragon opponent. It was really funny, actually. We got into a situation where I was attacking Feast or Famine, and I think I Hawk Tattooed in one of his guys, and we got into a situation where he was buffing my guys to try and make me break, and I was buffing his guys to prevent me from breaking and stuff like that.
Oh god, yeah, hilarious. Okay, so I think Enzi, you got a bit of a list of some of the top decks at Gen Con. Did you find any patterns, or was there any comments you had on just reading through what seemed to be successful? And given that there's now an extra couple packs out and some new rolls, should we just take everything with a bit of a grain of salt?
Yeah, I think this is the perfect time to get out there and put your creativity hat on. I mean, that's one of the things that makes this game super fun, is all the choices and the deck building constraints and all that kind of stuff. I mean, right now I'm looking at the 6 decks that were posted on Facebook by Trevor Holmes. Shout out to him. And yeah, I mean, Hawk Tattoo is in 4 of the 6 decks. Let Go is in 4 of the 6 decks. There's definitely a Dragon Splash pattern. And the decks that aren't running Dragon Splash, Crab and Crane, both have answers as well. The Crane's running 2 Calling in Favors, and Crab is, of course, running Karate District, which, isn't quite enough. And maybe that's why it's a top 8 deck and not a winning deck. So
I think getting top 8 at Gen Con's pretty huge achievement anyway, right?
Oh, it's massive. Yeah. Huge achievement.
And I thought it was pretty heartening to see Phoenix get to top 2. That was pretty amazing.
Yeah, I was pretty stoked. And 7-0 on day 1 as well, which was
wow. There was a Lion that was 7-0 as well, right?
Yeah, that's right. That was day 2, I think. Yeah, jeez. That was crazy good.
Yeah, it's nice to see a bit of diversity in the top ranks, and it's not just Crab and Scorpion and then the occasional Dragon. Yeah. You know what I thought was going to be an answer to Hawk Tattoo? Not to harp on or anything, but I thought that Grasp of Earth was going to be an answer to Hawk Tattoo. It turns out that nobody uses Hawk Tattoo to bring in their own guys. They only use it to bring in your guys. And Grasp of Earth doesn't protect your guys from being dragged into the conflict. So that card continues to just really
It's worse, doesn't it?
Yeah, it wants to make sure that its claim as one of the worst cards in L5R holds up.
It's incredible.
Ridiculous, stupid card.
So we talk about Hawk Tattoo, and we are mostly egreged by Hawk Tattoo because of its speed. It attaches and then reacts, and then everything just happens and it's done. And Grasp of Earth is bad for the exact opposite reason. It attaches, and then your opponent just does whatever the fuck it was supposed to do. If they were going to redo this, they should have made that the reverse, right? You attach Grasp of Earth, and then it does its thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Or it should have just been, it's just like a passive effect. Or, just always on. Yeah.
It's just...
if they're going to errata anything, it should be Grasp of Earth, right?
Yeah. That needs a better
and it needs to protect my guys from being dragged in by Hawk Tattoo. Although that's probably against its design, really.
Yeah. Well, was Hawk Tattoo designed for aggressively tattooing other people, like non-consensually.
Well,
Right.
I don't know.
I don't even know.
As an old fan of Hitomi,
Yeah.
I think that it was. There's nothing better than strapping people down and having Kokujin go to work on them.
That's right. So, in the spirit of just wrapping up this little bit, so Dragon Anil, aka Mind's Desire, took out Gencon. I think that was good. Like, Copy of Test was a deck that's played Jigaku tournaments all over, and it's nice to see that, as the season's wrapped up, one of the bigger names in the game took it down. And it does show that this game's definitely got a very high skill cap, and it's not, because you see the same sort of group players rise to the top. But one of the things that was heartening with the Lion and the Phoenix starting to make a showing, that it's not the same decks over and over and over again. So it means that those folk who actually just enjoy the flavour of the other clans can still be super competitive. So I'm really looking forward to the next season when we start to see some more diversity in the meta.
If you look at the bracket, everybody's in there, right? Like, you used to see brackets where it was like 50% Scorpion, 20% Crab, and then a couple of others. Whereas in this bracket, you've got everybody except Unicorn, which is a bit of a shame. Maybe they'll get sort of up there when their Stronghold comes in.
Yeah, for sure. So lots of Crane in there as well. So, and I think we'll talk about in a moment the rise of the Crane. I think we'll be seeing a lot more of them. But so Toshi Ranbo season wrapped up, and Scorpion won, which is great. I think that they're my favorite faction. So I think it was important that they won. And they've claimed Toshi Ranbo. You've got the province, and it got, you can look on the FFG website, and instead of having a neutral background, it's now got that lovely Scorpion background. But the cool thing was, there was a fiction that came out, like, I think yesterday at the time of recording. I don't know, did you guys get a chance to read it? The Stalking Tiger?
Like I never read the fiction, right? But
Yeah.
this one I read, and I spent my entire lunch break reading it. It was great.
Yeah, so, look, we think you should all go
Spoilers?
out and read it, but I do want to talk about it. So, I think I've given you enough time now to go and stop the podcast, read it, and come back. But if you're in the car, or you're, like, listening to this as you're, like, on a train or something, you could look at it on your phone, I guess, but bad luck, we're going to spoil it. So, it's really, really cool, and it reminds me of some of my favorite themes of the old game. You can start to feel that same storytelling, like the love of these characters. It's like a really cool scene. So it's like a two-hander with Akoto Toturi, and he's like watching this dude like doing a shitty kata like near a pond, and it turns out it's the Emperor. And so the whole the whole fiction is Toturi and Emperor Hantei the 38th. And I think that's the first time we've officially...
It's the first time they've named him, yeah.
Yeah, they've actually named the Emperor. And it's just those two just talking about... And you're starting to see some of the ways that, you can say this sort of stuff, but you're not allowed to say this sort of stuff, so some of the politics and a back and forth. But you can see, the Emperor's wanting to, and he's starting to tell Toturi's plans, and Toturi's getting more and more nervous, and as Toturi figures out what he's actually doing, it's just the interplay between those two characters. I thought it built a lot of tension, and then it was a really big reveal. Like, did you like the way the sort of conversation flowed?
Yeah, I thought it was really good. You know what it kind of reminded me of? And I know L5R is kind of the OG for this, well, whatever. L5R has some really good fiction. But this felt very intriguey, very Game of Thronesy, that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
I was gonna say L5R was like the OG Game of Thrones, but actually, like, reality was the OG Game of Thrones, But it felt very politically intriguey, that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and the idea that Toturi, the start of the fiction starts off with essentially Hantei's son kind of flipping. So the Emperor's son kind of flipping the bird at Toturi, and and Toturi has not much respect for him, but has to because he's the Emperor's son, and the firstborn. And so he's talking to the Emperor, and the Emperor's asking him questions. What do you think about him? Satori's like, what do you reckon? And Toturi's being very careful to, like, not offend the Emperor, to make sure that he preserves his honor. That eventually Hantei's like, yeah, my son sucks. He's not going to be a good Emperor. I'm getting really, really old. And, and so, names his, like, little bro, like the second son, as the new Emperor, and makes Toturi write it on a blank scroll. And I thought it was just amazing, where he's like, Toturi, like, halfway through the conversation, Toturi's like, yes, this is kind of like, it offends tradition, but I'm glad we're not going to have this little dick on the throne. And then, like, Hantei throws another, like, grenade. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, Shoju is going to be his regent, and he's going to guide my second son.
Yeah. And
Toturi's blood's boiling.
Yeah, and Hantei the 38th is going to abdicate, right? Which basically means Shoju's in charge of the Empire. If you remember,
in charge of the Emperor, yeah.
If you remember back to, I think it was the Scorpion story. The Scorpion story might be the only other story I've read, actually. And it was really good as well. It was like Shoju and Kachiko walking through a garden or something like that, and they were talking about power machinations and things like this. And I couldn't help but remember, Kachiko was like counseling this kind of, maintain power from behind the scenes kind of thing. And then there's this story, and it seems like it's kind of come to fruition. Yeah. And you know what else? In this story, they talk about the Emperor's physicality, and Tori notices that the Emperor's eyes are kind of milky and things like this. And I'm like, well, he's either old and infirm, right? Which is reasonable. But maybe he's not. Maybe he's a little bit poisoned, Yeah. Maybe that tea that comes from the rare dragon lands isn't quite as authentic as all of that.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
Maybe you got hit with Cloud the Mind.
Drugs.
The Emperor's text box is blank. No. Yeah.
It's brilliant.
Yeah, and it was, although what's really interesting is if you think about Shoju as the regent, right? That actually is a position that, in general, I wouldn't think that a sneaky sort of clan that gets most of its power through subterfuge would really want, because you're exposed, right? Like, Shoju's going to be very visible in the Emperor. He's not, like, holed up in, his castle and, just giving instructions to Aramoro and all these other cronies, right? Like,
well, it makes you wonder. It makes you wonder who whispered in the Emperor's ear to put Shoju in that position. Was it perhaps Kachiko? Perhaps. Yeah. Maybe it was Aramoro. I don't know.
I have a thought. I think that maybe there is no conspiracy. It just makes you think there's a conspiracy, right? And actually, the Emperor is more savvy than you think, and he realizes that if he's going to do something unprecedented, like abdicate, and put a second son in charge of the Empire, that second son is going to need the underhand more than any of the other clans, for example, to keep himself safe. Because obviously, any clan that wants to try to take a bid for power, usually the Scorpion, right, would then try to go after that eldest son and say he's the rightful heir and use him as a puppet. So by putting the most devious clan as the regent for the heir that you've now named, you remove that.
It's a bit of a detractor for the other clans as well, right? Like, if you want to try and manipulate, this young Emperor, really, you're actually now having to come up against Shoju and Kachiko and Aramora. It's pretty tough.
So here's the thing that I really like about the way that they write some of this stuff is that so you mentioned that the underhand of the Emperor, the Scorpion of the underhand of the Emperor, and if you think about all the really good villains in history, right? Well, not in history, but like in fiction, all the really good villains, all of them think that they're doing the right thing, right? They're the ones that think that they're right and just and all this type of thing, and they do all this horrible stuff. That's kind of the Scorpion, I think, to a T. They are the quintessential villains of the story. but they do things like there's no doubt that Shoju thinks that he's doing the best thing for the Empire and things like that.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with that. And I think what was also cool was they make sure they mention a few other little bits and pieces in there. They managed to, like, yes, there's the story you're reading on the page, but then there's references to things that are else that they're starting to, like, plant some seeds. And they're talking about how, like, Isua Katie, you know, Toturi's wife, is, you know, having trouble, you know, discerning a few, you know, trying to, like, pick up people's preferences, you know, and you know, there's challenges. And is it the you know, is it Yuona or something that she couldn't pick up the presents? But there's kind of reference to events I've seen. Who was it?
Uegina, I think it was.
Uegina.
Uegina, UIJ something. Yeah, it wasn't Yuona.
No, okay, right. But yeah, I like the references to sort of other stuff that's going on off screen.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Very cool.
Yeah. So that
all the people that had stopped listening to the podcast can come back now, right?
We've stopped talking about the fiction.
I don't know how we bring them back in. They've all stopped. They've all tuned out. What the fuck?
You guys supposed to talk about strategy.
It's clearly the answer is hawk tattoo, guys.
Oh yeah, just put 3 hawk tattoos, you'll be fine.
Togashi Yukuni's he's the one behind it all. He's like slapped a hawk tattoo on Shoju, pulled him into the political conflict.
That's right. That's exactly what's happened. So what I thought, that's a really cool way to wrap up, you know, the first major Code season, first major arc of you know, L5R. So it's setting up now to look at, you know, a brave new world, and with that, out of Gen Con, Toshi Ranbo got a color, and you know, we got the story, and now we've also got some new roles. Has anyone got that list of new roles in front of them?
I've got it in front of me.
Yeah. So just before you go through what they are, I just wanted to comment on. I thought it was so cool that, like, FFG just got down to it. Like, they just put it out.
Yeah.
It was only a few days.
Like a couple of days.
Yeah, they didn't wait around. And that sort of responsiveness is so cool. And it's, you know, you can see that they've probably taken to heart, you know, the challenges and communications they had. Because that lull was, you know, was no good when they just weren't talking to us. But now they just really are. So I guess if they can keep this up, when they don't have another 2 months of saying absolutely nothing, it's great. But who knows? So, new roles. Very exciting. What do we got, Enzi?
All right. I'll just read the new role. I hope people know what their original role is. So, Crab have Seeker of Earth.
Yeah.
So, meet the new role, same as the old role.
I like the new role better than their old role.
Oh, well, that's interesting. We'll have to discuss that at length in a moment. Crane have Keeper of Air, so similar story there. Dragon get Keeper of Void. Lion get Seeker of Void. Phoenix get Seeker of Air. Scorpion get Keeper of Earth. And Unicorn get Keeper of Fire.
Right. So let's start from the top.
Actually,
what?
Just before you do, who do you guys think is most happy about their role? Their new role? Most happy. What clan was just like salivating for it?
Probably Phoenix.
Phoenix?
Unicorn obviously pretty happy, but just give Unicorn even a small little scrap. You know, they've been starving for so long. And I mean, they obviously got an amazing role. I don't know. What do you reckon?
I reckon Lion. I mean, you know, in a vacuum, everyone says Seeker of Void is the best role. You know, and our good friend Toridori, he is probably one of the most vocal proponents of that line of thinking. So Lion getting Seeker of Void, if he can't do anything, if he can't do something with Lion now, I mean, who can?
I think if you ask him, they're still trash tier. It's hopeless. There's Lion. They can't do anything. 7-0 in Gen Con was total ass.
And I will ask him because I get off on hearing this saltiness.
Right. And what did you think, Merlin?
Salt for breakfast. I reckon Scorpion. I reckon Scorpion are the most happy because there was this huge after Gen Con, not Gen Con, after Worlds when they went Seeker when they very well could have had a keeper. So now people that are all going, no, we need a keeper all for this like dishonor, bollocks. Now get to put their chips on the table and go, no, this is the best deck.
It's true. They can give it a good old shot.
That's true. The whinge factor's been removed.
Oh, but I mean, they were whinging now, I'm sure, that they didn't get Seeker of Air, so they could do disgusting stuff with Mark of Shame and Soul Beyond Reproach. But hey.
Well, that's true. I mean, Winger's got a whinge, right?
Can you imagine Keeper of Air? It would be crazy.
Okay. So speaking of whinges, Crab, notoriously that player base are, the biggest whinges. What do you reckon, Enzi? Seeker of Earth. Shots fired.
Well, clearly they're also one of the most misguided player bases. And look, I play a lot of Crab, and I would not have picked this. So I think, maybe it's a testing thing. Maybe they're like, you know what, we love Sabotage so much. We want to be able to play it out of Keeper and Seeker, Sabotage all the time, prevent other people from taking an Earth role. So only Scorpion get it. So Crab and Scorpion can remain the only top-tier clans that can blow up holdings. I'm not really sure. I mean, Seeker of Earth isn't too bad if you're going tall Crab units. But in Hawk Tattoo meta, is a wider board better? In a, 2 attacks for Lion Unicorn, is a wider board better? Seeker of Earth kind of gets that one-off shutdown of a wide board attack because it bows everyone. But, some of Crab's new cards are kind of pushing a wider board. So if they're going to go Seeker, does it make a lot of sense? It's really hard to say. Can we see
a Cooney Laboratory, just lots of honor loss, Matsu Ted, was it STD? Is that a deck that could potentially work, or is it just a really, really quick way to lose?
Man, I mean, STD's high risk. It's just got that whole theme all over it.
Yeah. Can you see? So what can you see? Out of Crab using Seeker of Earth, what can you see? Can you see any new archetypes? What does that bring to the table? Is Pathfinder a card?
I think. Well, Pathfinder is a card. That's something that is factual.
That is undisputed. Undisputed.
Yeah. It's also a restricted card.
We have proof.
Right?
This is what I'm saying. Is it usable?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, the thing is that Seeker of a Pathfinder's deck, and I don't know. I think you need Pathfinders and Iron Mine in the same deck. I just think that that's just the way that it's got to be. At the moment, you can't have it. So if the restricted list gets revised, sure. But at the same time, I can't see the restricted list getting revised because of the dragon factor, which maybe we can talk about the dragon part. I mean, maybe Crab can go Consumed by Five Fires. That's the new hotness.
Yeah, I reckon they could do that.
Yeah. And you know what you could do, which would be pretty cool. I have to build this now. You can put Seal of the Crab on opponents' characters, and then you can kill them off. Oh, can you? I don't know. And try to Yasuki Taka them. Anyway, the work in progress.
Does Yasuki Taka work on just all Crab characters or something?
It's all Crab characters when they leave play.
Yeah.
Yeah. So Consumed doesn't be there.
I feel like that's a reach. It's a stretch.
It's a reach. Yeah. At first I was like, if Fate comes off of them to see trigger, because that would be cool. But no, that doesn't work at all.
So you're trading a card for a Fate with your Suki Taka.
Look, it doesn't work at all.
You're backing off.
Yeah. So Merlin, what do you think, Seeker of Earth? You said that you thought that it was a super strong pick.
No, I said I like their new role better than their old role, which is really just me quoting a Regurgitator song.
Right.
I don't actually think Crab have much new stuff out of Seeker of Earth. Pathfinder's Blade is a really aggressive card, so you want to be out there and attacking and pushing and stuff like that. And you're right that if they're out there doing that and they don't have Iron Mines that kind of makes it just a little bit. I feel like Crab's real strength is to keep that board around, the board persistence, in the same way that that's the strength of the dragon at the moment.
Yeah.
That said, I am hearing rumors like of this kind of weenie Shigenja kind of deck for Crab that seems to want to bid low a lot of the time and play all these cards that lose them honor. And maybe if there's maybe if they can still keep their board around when playing that deck, they could play Consumed by Five Fires to kind of knock out their opponent's board and really destabilize their opponent's economy. But I don't really see that being a thing, mostly because of the 5 costs. And I don't think Crab, if they're buying a bunch of weenies, are really saving all that much money.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
I don't really see the new role being a thing.
Do you
All
think? I mean, I'm on Imperial Advisor right now. Shout out to them because their rollout cards page, where they've broken it down by Seeker of X, Keeper of X, is really helpful. I'm looking at the Seeker of Earth ones right now, and is there some kind of deck that runs both Specialized Defenses and Discouraged Pursuit?
Discouraged Pursuit? Are you serious?
Yeah. So I don't know. I mean, I'm just spitballing, right? Like a real keep your
Can we
hands off
jump?
my
Can we
promises.
can we jump onto Five Rings DB and see how many Crab Shinobi there are? Just real quick.
Hey, you can run like
You can get
Adept of
conflict.
Shadows,
Yeah, you can get Conflict Shinobi. I'm not saying you can't.
Meek Informants, Adept of Shadows, and like Meek Informant's a boss.
Meek Informant's
now.
not a Shinobi.
Yeah. Hell yeah, he is.
Yeah,
Are you
it's
kidding?
really good.
He's
No,
a
I
peasant
gotta-
Shinobi.
I gotta
He's a
check
peasant
that.
Shinobi. Have a look.
No way. Is it?
Yeah, man. Peasant Shinobi,
Uh,
baby. You type in that.
Oh
shit
my
in.
god! It's a oh, dude.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Wait,
He's
wait.
awesome.
Didn't bloody Scorpion just got Keeper of Earth, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's all right. We'll
Oh.
get to that.
Mate, bit
Alright,
is
let's-
hitting the fan.
All right. Yeah, it's pretty exciting. Let's move on to Crane. I feel like with Crane getting Keeper of Air, they just got an enabler for an extra Fate Worse Than Death, I guess. Like, I feel like if you're playing Keeper of Air and Crane, you're really super, super duper encouraged, if you're not already encouraged with Seeker of Air, to, run Mark of Shame, like Splash Sculpt. Is there anything you guys can think that this Keeper of Air will do different, apart from allow you to have a different flavour of Crane Dishonor or Crane?
Well, as we saw at one of Merlin's, funds the pick any role you want tournament, Keeper of Air is actually really strong with the Seeker of Knowledge. So Crane will now be able to trigger Keeper Initiative off any attack as long as they drop her in play. So, yeah, so that's pretty good and aggressive.
Yeah. It's a really good point. Seeker of Knowledge on the on the attack, and then so any win will get you your keepers. Yeah, that's true. There you go.
Yeah,
That's what-
other cards that are really interesting out of that is Disdainful Remark.
Yep.
Typically, players have lots of cards in their hands, and so Disdainful Remark can hit for a lot. To be honest, Marwin used to do that, and would give +8 strength and stuff. It's huge.
Yeah. Okay.
True.
They can run Harmonize, right? If you're running
They
Seeker of
can run
Knowledge, you can
Harmonize.
also run Harmonize.
Yeah,
I don't
pretty
know
good
if that's
defensive
good.
card.
Yeah, well, I guess in
Look,
potentially defensive Dishonor Crane. Is that a thing?
it could maybe end up being better in Crane. Like if you're splashing Phoenix, maybe,
Yeah.
than it was in Phoenix. I mean, the fact that Harmonize isn't a spell just makes it hard to gel with the rest of your conflict deck in Phoenix.
Yeah, it is a tiny bit of a problem, but it is still a good card. Like if you can, so you might have to face that character again, but you're going to be facing the character on the opponent's side of the board, which is a much safer place to be fighting a conflict rather than fighting a conflict on your side of the board.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. This sounds like another NC based one. Keeper of the Void for Dragon. Are you excited?
I'm excited. I think that it's just going to be amazing. I think for monk decks, just in general, whether you're playing some kind of janky filth that I've constructed or not, I think that having access to Keeper Initiate in Monk decks, they got the Keeper role at the right time. So I think that that's really fun for them. I was looking at the, what is it even called?
Northern
Wall Sensei. Look, that's something that will require some testing. It's a fairly strong ability, but you still need to trigger it. So it's really good on the defense. It's not as hack, but it'll potentially, protect your big character. That your big tower, that you've put all your eggs in that basket. So yeah, could be strong.
Did great work for the Ring Techie, which is the Jigoku open source software guys, the guys who work on developing Jigoku. It did require them to do a little bit of rework. There's all these cards that were just literally never played, and now because of the new roles, some of them becoming playable, and a few bugs are being discovered. And I think Northern Wall Sensei might be one of them. It's the first time it's ever been legal to play, right?
So, yeah,
it is. Yeah.
I had to look up what the card did when you guys mentioned it. I'm like, Northern. There's no such dragon card. First I learned that fucking Meek Informant is a shinobi, and then there's this thing.
Meek Informant.
It's amazing what opening the rolls kind of can do, right?
Yeah.
I think other void cards of note, or keeper cards for dragon. I think the first time that I see someone get talismaned into a restoration, I'm gonna laugh hysterically.
That's gonna be
unless it's me, and then I'm gonna cry. But I think talisman into restoration and then Yoruma to flip the restoration back down, I think that's pretty fun for the dragon player. Jirogen's Curse is good, and I looked at it last night, but the Awakened Tsukunogami is probably not that great in Dragon. So, yeah, I really wanted to make it work, and I was like, I don't think there's enough cards that you play in Dragon that have a trait that match an element on a ring.
Yeah.
That's a dumb card.
Yeah.
Okay. So
I'm really, really keen to Jirogens with Being and Becoming. I really really want to.
Oh, there's one other thing that I'm going to test for Dragon is, because you know how I was building that Dragon Dishonor deck that uses Right Sugu and Policy Debate, so I get more duels and I can play contingency plans to lower my bids, so I can dishonor them out. Now that you have access to backhanded, I wonder if you can go for a Dishonor Bomb out of Dragon. So that's my other thing. Yeah.
Yeah, because I guess if you've got a contingency plan, like Ratsugu's ability beyond being really good says opponent loses an honor.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, cool. All right, so Lion got Seeker of Void. So speaking to Toridori, and he had a crazy idea with this. He says, and it may not be reliable, but it is a hilarious combo. So low bid Lion, so you always got like a chunk of honor, right? And you play Steadfast Samurai, who as long as you got 5 or more honor than the opponent, stays around, and you chuck Jirogen's Curse on him, and you just keep him untapped. So there's just an additional fate phase every single turn.
Dude, that's really, really hot. Yeah.
Just like continual board wipes.
It's a thing that can happen.
Yeah. You can get assassinated.
Jirogen's Curse, is that unique?
No.
So you could have 3 Steadfast.
It is max 1 per round, though. So max.
The interrupt is max 1 per round. Yeah, okay. Yeah.
So I think it's total of 2. That's it.
It's not limit. It's max.
Yeah.
So yeah. Okay, that's fair. Okay, so Lion, Seeker of Void, Joey, and myself. Joey's another local Melbourne player. There was a tournament that Merlin ran, which is a alternate roles tournament, and we both bought Seeker of Fire. What is Seeker roll with Lion? Yeah.
That was really good. That was really good.
Yeah, so using Time of War to recycle Pathfinder's blades, that was super great. But I guess it was pre-restricted list, so we were running, Charge, Pathfinders for Greater Glory, all of the cards. So I don't know how. Yeah. So I think restricted list probably poo-pooed that deck, but I don't know. I'm not sure where to go with Lion. I think with Seeker of Void at least. I think Keeper of Fire will remain great. I think HMT just gets stronger with every set of cards that get released. So I'm really looking forward to see where we go with that. Seeker of Void, I haven't nutted it out yet. Any of you guys had any thoughts on where we can go with that particular role for Lion?
Well, I think the Gerogen's Curse, and maybe even with Consumed, is a cool direction.
Is that going to be an honor deck?
Which is always good. Well, it could be the honor deck.
Yeah.
Like, you're effectively stalling out. Well, you're not stalling the game. You're accelerating the game in terms of number of turns, right? If you can get enough Venerable Historians, you can just keep pumping guys out, get them honored in the turn, and let them leave play, right? It could be interesting.
And with that new, what's it called, Raging Battleground, happens to be a Void province. If you've got the Gerogen's thing going, it means there's more likely there's going to be dudes with no fate on the table, and Raging Battleground can get rid of them. So you might, that card, people are knocking it, but in that particular deck, it might be effective, right?
What does it do?
It's a Lion Province, Strength 4 reaction. After this province is revealed, choose a non-unique character with no fate on it. Discard that character.
Yeah, it could be interesting.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm not saying it's super powerful, but potentially in a deck where you're removing a lot of fate, you're reducing the economy, that's, another tool.
Yeah. You know what I have noticed, though, because I play with Uona a lot, is that the targets these days for unique versus non-unique, there are more unique characters that are around, and I find myself very, what is it? What's the opposite of spoiled for choice? Yeah, whatever that is, starved, right? I'm starved for opportunities to use those kinds of.
Yeah. Okay. So, all right, Phoenix. We'll knock one of the listener questions on the head now. Clinton Hay, noted Phoenix aficionado over in West Australia, asks, Phoenix, Seeker of Air, why? What direction are we aiming for?
What? All right.
What do you think, Merlin? Is this the end, or is Seeker of Air absolutely amazing?
No, it's amazing. You can take the really strong deck that we already have, and then you can just turn it into a Seeker, and it becomes even better, right? So you kick out all your keepers, you lose a little bit of influence, but most of the core of the deck is still there. You get a lot more economy, so you can use, if you're playing Kyuden Asawa, that deck is really, really hungry for fate, right? You want to play your one-cost events, which are amazing, again and again and again and again. And you can just do that more out of Seeker of Air. So I think you can do that. But I think that there is a lot of opportunity to do things out of Phoenix decks. Is this the right time to talk about this stuff? I don't know. There's a lot more opportunities to do stuff out of Phoenix decks than there has been that have just been more difficult in the past. So things like Azunami seems really good. Phoenix are wanting to do the Ring of Water a whole lot, which is great. But in Keeper, if you wanted to kind of cheat, the Ring of Water using Guardian Kamis or Display of Powers or whatever, you had to wait for your opponent to present that opportunity for you. Whereas now you can just go, well, I'm going to go for the Ring of Water, and then I'm going to play my Seeker Kami, and then I'm going to hit it, and then I'm going to bow the guy that he left home to defend and straighten the guy that I just spent defending in the last conflict. And you just kind of get more ahead.
Wow.
If you are playing Azunami, there's an opportunity to use that new, you can Seeker Kami. You could also use that Shigenja Jewel. And I'm actually in the camp that says that Shigenja Jewel, you can spend a couple of fates to guarantee the win of that jewel to get a ring effect, because the ring effects are amazing, especially if it happens to be the Ring of Water. There's a lot of opportunity for Phoenix now to attack multiple rings and kind of get multiple ring effects off if they're a little bit smart about it.
So my first thing I thought of when I saw Seeker of Air for Phoenix, I'm like, oh my god, Serene Warrior, Soul Beyond Reproach.
Yes.
They're made in heaven. Made in heaven.
Yes. That is my current deck. It's like it's three Soul Beyond Reproach and two No, well, I thought about Knobsack, but I actually went for what's the bow one? Admit Defeat.
Oh, Admit Defeat. Yeah.
Yeah, but you can that's a toolbox kind of slot. You can put whatever you like in there. But Soul Beyond Reproach, Sukune goes back into a Shigenja deck because you're not really worried about her getting dishonored and then she's a potato forever. You can actually bring her back, right? And Serene Warrior, you just bring it back. And you know what I was thinking? I was pondering, is it possible to make a deck with no attachments in it and kind of use honor tokens like pseudo attachments, you know? And I'm not sure if it is yet because as soon as I went and built that deck, the first thing I did was put in like 3 katanas and 3 fans and all that stuff. Yeah. And 3 Cloud the Minds. But maybe that's a thing you could do.
So Serene Warrior 3 cost becomes 7/6.
Yeah.
If wanted 7/6.
And then you've got all that stuff about
9/8.
You don't
if your box. If you use your box.
Well, if you're using old box, yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think I am. I think if I was using old box, I would put in Haughty Magistrate and stuff, and then Haughty Magistrate just bounces up to 3 glory off the box, then it gets honored, and nobody else can contribute. It's pretty horrible.
I love it. Absolutely love it. Does that shitty little attachment that gives +1 glory become usable, or is that am I getting a bit too excited?
No, it does not.
There you go. So I think Mr. Clinton Hay, there's awesome stuff to do to try out, and Serene Warrior, Soul Beyond Reproach, the old deck, just with new clothes, I guess. Yeah, more
Phoenix have already got a lot of opportunity in their deck building anyway, right? Like there's this Dishonor style Phoenix with all the Cordies and things. You can do that out of the Seeker of Air as well. You can throw down Mark of Shames on people and really, really annoy your Phoenix opponents.
Yeah. So moving on to Keeper of Earth that Scorpion picked up. I know there's probably some hardcore Scorpion nerds who were thinking that Seeker of Air would have been optimal for us, and it probably maybe would have. I think Seeker of Air would have been great to get access to Mark of Shame. Phenomenal. However, for the health of the game and variety, Keeper of Earth was definitely a great pick, right? Being able to and I think being able to use, especially with the Scorpion pack just around the corner, I feel like once that pack's out, if not already, we've got a viable alternative,
Yeah, it gives you access. It gives you access to that Shinobi card that I was dissing before. Yeah,
discourage shit.
Yeah, and one of the things that really kills Scorpion is if you get Kanjo locked, right?
Yeah,
that's just a pain in the butt. So you can just get rid of it now. You're fine.
Yeah,
you're golden.
Sabotage. It's great. And there's actually 2 sort of distinct decks that kind of come out of it. There's going to be, whether it's now or with the Scorpion pack, there's obviously a more conquest focused, Shinobi style Aramoro kill deck, which is going to be great because a very different style. And then you do have access to backhanded compliment now and potentially disdainful remark, so it might be a really good option for defensive dishonor. I mean, the challenge with defensive dishonor is you do need to make sure you can close within time. That's like a skill, and I think that something you need to consider before you bring it to a big tournament. But maybe there's enough gas now to do some truly awful things. Any other thoughts on that?
Yeah, is Crane Splash potentially viable?
Oh yeah, like
disdainful remark and knob sacks and that big -3 covert.
Political rival. Yeah, political
Yeah.
rebel. Also, like, you know, you can run Soul Beyond Reproaches and 3 knobsacks to really make sure your knobsack works. You know, triple knobsack is the thing. Yeah. Yeah. So that's quite possible.
I'm really looking forward to seeing what Scorpion actually come up with out of this keeper role. Like, there's a lot of really smart players in that player base, and I, for one, can't wait to come up against their pro dishonor, control,
Yeah.
you know, all the bad things deck.
Yeah, I think it's going to be. I think there's going to be some real abominations, real nightmares that will be built. Okay, so now the clan Unicorn, who got access to Icon of Favor. Right. Was there anything else they got access to? Unicorn got Keeper of Fire.
I'm going to let Enzi take this one on. I got a bit to say, but Enzi's the man of gank, so.
Well, look, I'm a big fan of Adopted Kin, unlike 99.9% of the player base. So I just wonder if there's anything cool there. You know, Unicorn run a lot of attachment. You know, Dragon Splash isn't a bad thing, as we've seen in and of itself. So, you know, if your characters are going away and you've got all these Mishoto spells attached to them, does Adopted Kin give you a bit more gas in the tank? Maybe it does, right? I think it's a testing will tell type situation. I think Unleash the Djinn is cool. You know, losing 3 honors is a serious cost. And it hits all of your characters and all of their characters, from my understanding. Set the skill, both skills of each participating character to 3 until the end of the conflict.
That whole loss is real.
Pardon?
Yeah.
Unleash the Djinn, you lose 3 honor for that effect.
yeah, the honor loss is real.
But
yeah,
it works in political and it adds political and military skill. So that's, you know, that's pretty special.
Yeah,
I really like the fact that we've got like these unicorn characters kind of riding into battle, and they're like, all right, we're gonna like overcome the enemy, and this like one guy gets like this amulet or something and breaks it open. This giant Djinn fucking flies out of it at the enemy. This other one, you know, they're fighting in the desert or something. This other one cracks open a staff or something, and then these water charging things, you know, the flood of the river or whatever it is. Just all their really cool like artifacts. I like that. I like that theme.
Yeah. Yeah, so I think in general Yukon did really well. Like Feast of Famine, obviously amazing. Great to be able to use Talisman to move people into Feast of Famine. So their row is a lot more deadly now, which is absolutely great. And now with the rest of the new stronghold and, you know, Shitomi encampment, I feel like they're going to be a contender now, right? Like, time will tell over the next, you know, probably 2 or 3 weeks. We'll start to see, you know, some sort of meta emerge. I think we're in that really fun discovery phase at the moment, where we all think we know how to play and we're all trying new stuff. And then we realize what we're doing is terrible and we just need to go back to playing Dragon with Crab Splash. But at the moment, we're still in this exciting new world. So it should be a lot of fun over the next few weeks. So what's the one deck you're most excited about? And then we'll move on to listener questions. Like, Enzi, what are you super excited about building?
I think the Unicorn, I haven't really given them much of a pass.
Yeah.
I think Keeper of Fire. I mean, I even wonder if you could do some kind of honor deck with the Icon of Favor, because it's fire. Librarians, who's to say? But the Dragon deck right now, for me, the one I described earlier, that's where it's at.
I'm really looking forward to seeing you running the Imperial Librarian.
I'm back, by the way.
Dude,
cool.
I've always found, in Old 5R at least, that the random kind of janky, unaligned Imperial courtiers, like, they just always end up being good in, like, one deck. You just have to find that deck.
Automo douchebag just, like, finally has his day in the sun. Cool. All right. Merlin, we're just saying, like, what's the one deck you're just super excited to build?
You mean besides Phoenix?
Oh, I mean, just, like, with the new role. Well, even within Phoenix, is it the Serene Warrior deck? Like, what are you excited about?
Yeah, I'm pretty excited to run that. I'm also pretty excited to try out some interesting things with like unicorn and things like that out of Phoenix. I
Yeah.
actually want to build a unicorn deck as well. I really like the theme of the unicorn these days.
So, to me, the monster deck that I'm quite excited about experimenting with is, I think Crane are now going to. I mean, they did alright at Gen Con, quite a few in the top 16, but now with that, like, just foul magistrate station that's come out that lets them straighten it on character, like, wherever. And, Mark of Shame, Soul Beyond Reproach, just super excited to see what they can do. I feel like there's, some violent, strong, potentially MPE possibility there. And I'm really looking forward to exploiting the misery of my opponents with that.
Making your opponents cry at the table.
Oh, it's just... I love the uninteractive nature of Mark of Shame. It's just a brilliant card. Right. So, we had a few other questions. We just got a couple minutes. So, Edwin Pierce, he writes in, first-time listener. No. Will people be more upset by the fact that Scorpion got the Toshi Ranbo province, or that it's going straight to the binder? Okay, so Toshi Ranbo, it's the new province that any dude that comes out of there gets an additional fate. My problem with that card is that, like, first of all, they have to flip it. It's got to be revealed before it can do anything, right? And then when it does get revealed, you then have to successfully defend it. Then, if you've successfully defended it, you have to flip a dude. So hopefully your Hidden Moon Dojo or Storehouse or something else isn't on top of it. So it's a bit of an irritating province. So at this stage, I'm probably, I've got to help out. I've got to feel like it's just not super playable. Cool. So, yeah, I don't know. You have any thoughts on Toshi Ranbo, Merlin?
Look, I think it's an okay card. I think it'll do fine. I don't think it's going to be broken. I don't think any of that stuff. I think it'll be fine.
Yeah. Most of the other questions we got more or less were answered, I think, throughout the episode. They helped us, I guess, come up with some content here. There's one from Ray Dent, which we could probably end on, which says, congrats to Dragon winning Gen Con. I, for one, welcome our new reptilian overlords. With Worlds coming up, do you think Dragon will suffer a massive loss in strength when they lose Seeker of Fire as their role? Which clans, if any, are in a prime position to take their place in tiers if they do? What do you reckon, Merlin? Is Seeker of Fire important?
Are they going to lose their strength because of Seeker of Fire? No, I don't really think they do. Dragon cards are really efficient. They got some of the best cards in the game. I think they'll be okay. They probably want to keep role because I think the Crab Splash is actually really good. I think the strength of that clan is that the fact that they get to keep their board around, which makes them really good. Who's in a prime position to take their place? I'm excited to see what Scorpion do because I think Scorpion have just answers for everything. And you might actually argue that Scorpion are kind of already there, like Dragon are definitely strong, but so is Scorpion.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for hanging around. If you got this far in the podcast, it's and we'll probably next week we've got Toradori back, and we'll be a week into testing crazy new role decks, so there'll be lots of fun to talk about. Quick shout out to we have Dave, who's one of our other rollers. It's his mum's birthday today. Happy birthday, Dave's mum.
Happy birthday, Mrs. Dave.
Yeah. Hope you had a great day, Mrs. Dave. So we'll have a bigger cast next time, and I think we'll have a bit of a round table. We'll, who's got the best deck, and let's talk about, how the meta is shaken out a bit. I think there's going to be a lot to talk about then.
Yeah, we'll roll out the Jank Tank. We'll cast from the Jank Tank.
Cast live from the Jank Tank. All right, cool. All right, well, thanks everybody for tuning in, and we'll till next time. We've been the Hidden City Rollers, and you've been people who enjoy participating in a children's card game.